Welcome to our weekly broadcast of the African Treasures. Here we bring to you African arts, culture, and music. We also discuss issues of concern to people of the African descent in America, the Caribbean, South America, Africa, and all over the world. We invite you to come and see Africa in a positive light. So stay tuned and tell your friends to do the same.
Welcome to another episode of the African Treasures. I'm Dr. Michael Okeke, your host. My topic today is Africation. And this one is not in the dictionary, so don't go looking for it. But it's the title of a book written by two gentlemen from the country of Gambia in West Africa. The book is Africation, and it's authored by Dr. Samuel Atley and Mr. Kenneth Lewis, both from the country of Gambia. Welcome to African Treasures.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the book is Africation. And Dr. Atley, you're a dentist by profession, right?
That's right.
And you practice in Florida.
Yep.
And Mr. Lewis, you're a realtor.
That's correct.
Residing in Maryland,
In
right?
Maryland, the Washington, D.C. metro.
Okay. So the two of you came together to write this book. What was your motivation for writing this book, Dr. Atley?
We decided to write the book because we wanted facts to be out there. It's more about information. We Africans, my generation, we don't have access, or we have not really made a debate on African unification. So we decided to write the book to start the debate going on for this generation.
The debate about what?
African Union.
Unity of Africa.
Yeah.
Okay. When you say the word Africation, what should I think? What should the reader think without him opening the book? Africation.
Africation,
because it's not in the dictionary.
Yeah, it is. It's not in the dictionary.
So what does that? So what do you want it to mean?
We want people to think, African unity, African economic integration, and African unity. At a glance.
I read the book a little bit.
Yeah.
I haven't finished it. I know you've been on my case to finish the book, but I have a very busy schedule. But I've read it. I've started reading it. Now, when somebody reads this book, the portion I read so far is talking about economic unity. Mm-hmm. Or what about political unity?
Economic unity and political unity, they
go hand in hand.
Yes, they not basically.
They're inseparable.
They are inseparable. That is true, and that's the whole point why we spend most of the time on the book on economic unity, because that's the most important thing. The political thing, we cannot do much about that, but if we have the economic unity, then the politics will fall in place.
Now, when you say economic unity, tell our audience what you mean by that. Economic unity. It's a word. It's a blanket word, but break it down, please. Economic unity, well, Gambia has what, and Nigeria has what? Ghana has what? And how do we unite that?
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking when you say economic unity. So please, I didn't write this book. You wrote it. So help us out, please.
Okay. When we're thinking about unity, we're looking at Africa. Each individual country claims to be independent, and they're doing their own economic thing. But I believe is that independence that we have is not really as much of an independence, because each individual country is working, they're working on their own little compartment. Gambia doing its thing, Sierra Leone doing its thing, Nigeria doing its thing. We are working as a fragmented unit. We're not working together. So my belief is if we come together, that is the only time we have unity. And that unity will give us independence at that time. The independence we claim we have now, we don't really have it.
What do you relate this to? I'm sure we have had some kingdoms in Africa that rose and died at some point, like this Sudan. this Songhai Empire, Ghana Empire, Mali Empire, Hausa Kingdom, and all that. Are you drawing? Is there any success that they had that you're referring to?
Yes, that is true. In the past, those empires or kingdoms, they were very much united.
Because it was mainly commercial. If you look at the activity, it was mainly commercial. We read African history.
Yeah.
There was mainly commercial, and they had a lot more freedom at that time. They had a good unity. The unity, most of those countries were made up of maybe 5 or 6 or even more countries. You know, what we have today, we have Ghana, Nigeria, and all those. They belong to an individual empire at the time.
So what you're saying, or what you're trying to put out in this book, that Africans should get together and unite economically.
Yeah, we have to
and
go
have economic power. Yes. I want you to talk about your book. I don't want to talk about your book for you.
Exactly. I mean, what we're saying is that, you know, our motivation mainly is to actually lift the African people out of poverty through trade and economic cooperation. What we believe is that, you know, if we pull our resources together and first of all, you know, establish a means whereby African countries can even trade with each other, and then come to the table collectively to bargain, you know, with external forces outside, then we will come out, you know, ahead, you know, and much better than, you know, the deal that we are actually getting right now. Good. So we talking about, first of all, inter-African trade, and we're talking about collective bargaining externally. Okay.
Well, let's hold that thought, okay?
Sure.
Mr. Lewis. And because it's time for a little break. And please don't go away. It's Africation with Dr. Otley and Mr. Lewis, the co-authors. And we'll be right back.
The Law Office of Donald P. Edwards is proud to sponsor African Treasures, a program that celebrates the African continent, its people, its music, its past and its future. Wherever we are on the face of the earth, we are an African people.
We are bringing the treasures of Africa from all parts of the world straight to you.
Welcome again. The topic is Africation, and this is the book written by my guests who co-authored it, Dr. Otley and Mr. Lewis from the country of Gambia in West Africa. Welcome again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
From the last discussion, think you maybe you want to shed a little light on the term Africation. Let's dwell on it a little bit and move on, because we don't have much time, sir.
Okay. Africation is a combination of the word Africa and unification. Okay. Simply put, what we did is take Africa and the unification part together. We cut it up in the middle and squeeze it together, and there we go, Africation.
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay.
Now, we were talking about the economic unification of African countries, so we can have power and be able to have a say in the marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that a myth? Do you think it can really be accomplished?
Okay, it is a myth, and you can say that if you want.
I mean, in today's world, now we're so fragmented in Africa. We don't have the same language. It's like you want to have some, you're advocating something like the United States of Africa, just like the United States of America. Correct me if I'm wrong.
You're very right.
You think something like United States of Africa should be a good thing. But the difference here is that in America, they have one language. America, I'm sorry, but America has no culture the way we have in Africa. Most things in Africa are very culturally and traditionally rooted. And people can die if you want to change it.
No, we're not changing that.
So tell me how you think this unification can work in today's fragmented world.
Nobody's advocating changing that.
Okay.
That would remain, the culture and the values they had would remain strong and sound at the home base. At whatever the local geographical region is, that would remain strong and sound.
Okay.
They can do all the tribal things they want. Nobody's changing that. But we have to go beyond the survival mentality in Africa. We have to think now of economic empowerment. Okay. We've done survival for 50 years.
Okay.
And 50 years, the survival has not taken us anywhere. So now we want to go beyond that. This is where Africation comes about. We're pulling our resources together, and this is just for economic empowerment. And for those who like to criticize and say, oh, Africa is so diverse, we say, okay, take a look at China. China probably had more clans, more tribes, more languages, than Africa had. Go same thing with India. If those people were able to integrate at some point, then why can't Africa? We cannot be caught up in the same old, excuse mentality. There's so many tribes. That is something of the past.
Right. But let me ask you this. I share your views, and I would love for that to come to fruition, to be honest with you. We need economic freedom. We need economic strength. But I think the problem we have in Africa is management. Our people are brutalizing, our leaders are brutalizing our people. Just about every country you go to, they are at the mercy of the corrupt leadership. I'm sorry to say that, but that's the truth.
Answer part of it, then I'll answer the rest.
Okay. And
so the economic, the resources we have, I think Africa is endowed with a lot of resources, but it's the management.
That's quite correct, actually.
The presidents and the so-called governors and the guards.
Yeah. Just there.
Excuse me for using that word.
And enriching themselves and running away with the loot. But I think the African man and woman, the common man and woman, have reached a place now whereby they just want to make ends meet. They want to free themselves from the economic shackles that they are in, and they are actually willing to do what it takes to actually walk themselves to the path of economic freedom. And so what they need right now is the education, and the will to do that. And so we actually want to start with from the grassroots and start empowering the people, enlightening them, telling them why this is achievable, how it is going to be achieved, and why it will be better for them. And so once we empower people from the bottom, and then we can actually walk to the top, and we can deal with the leadership crisis that we have.
Okay, and I'll take it further. The excuse always that is the corruptness of the leaders that we have. I would say that's just a small percentage of the problem. That's probably 1/10 of the problem. Basically, the main problem that we are working with a system that has a design flaw. The entire African system has a flaw in the design, and it is on an automatic fail cycle. It's going to fail regardless of how successful, how honest or straightforward the leaders might be. Whatever those leaders do, regardless of how well they do it, the system is still going to fail because they are on an automatic fail cycle. They're designed to do, the fragmentation of Africa is designed to do what it is doing today. So we want people to be aware that, especially my generation, want people to be aware that if the rest of the world is able to come up with their own movements, the Chinese had the Great March, and the Russians had Glasnost, and we Africans must have Africation. We're talking about a whole ideology that the people have to start, bringing up and taking it and run to our destiny.
Okay. Now, when we come back, we're going to go for a illustration break. When we come back, I'd like to talk about implementation and solution.
Okay.
And the pragmatism, too.
Good.
So please don't go away. It's Africation, and we'll be right back.
One cannot fall in love with that which they don't know. So remember to tune into African Treasures weekly. And keep in mind, to love Africa is to know Africa.
For over 10 years now, the Metro Ebony Pages has been the only directory that caters to the minority communities in Metro Atlanta. For businesses trying to reach the minority communities, the Metro Ebony Pages is your vehicle. Individuals and families looking for services within the community, look first in the Ebony Pages. You may reach us at 404-209-8654.
Welcome to the final segment of this wonderful episode. The book is Africation, authored by Dr. Otley and Mr. Lois. Welcome again.
Thank you.
Now, before we went on break, we're talking about talking about the problems, but now I want us to get to solution. Now, I remember when I was growing up, I heard about the OAU, the Organization of African Unity. Weren't they positioned to do solve the same problem we're talking about today?
That's correct.
Kwame Nkrumah
Yes.
was trying to get this thing done, and Jomo Kenyatta, Nnamdi Azikiwe of Nigeria, all these people, they tried. Why do you think they failed? Why do you think the OAU is not able to address this issue?
Okay. When that organization was put into place and now replaced by the AU, these are organizations that have approached the issue through the governments. Okay. We agree with what they are doing and what they are saying. But they are the government's point of view. We're talking about the local people, the civilians, the grassroots.
Individual level.
This is where we're talking that this thing has to come up from our level to put pressure to this government, let them give us AU. Whatever the AU is doing right now, which is the African Union, we support it and acknowledge it. But we want pressure to be applied to the local governments so that they can give us that unification within our lifetime, not unification 100 years or when we're gone. So we want pressure. Us, our generation, has to start forming groups and grassroots movements to bring about the unification of Africa within our lifetime.
And it will be done in each various countries.
Each country organize their own people. We that are here in the African diaspora, we have a lot of leverage. We have we spend out. We're remitting a lot of money back to Africa.
Right.
At this time,
$4 billion last year went into Nigeria alone.
Okay.
From outside Nigeria, $4 billion of money was sent to Nigeria by Nigerians who are outside Nigeria.
Exactly. Okay. I'll take it even further. World Bank says now that the total foreign aid coming from all European countries put together globally is about 25 to 30 billion 2006. The total remittance going into Africa alone from the diaspora Africans is about 30 to $40 billion.
So you think if we stop sending sending this kind of money into the different countries, maybe we'll have
we continue doing that.
Okay.
Because we have folks there.
I'm trying to see how we can get this thing work.
We have folks there, my mother, my father. So we have to do that. So that we continue doing. But what we are saying is, this is leverage that we have. We have more leverage than most of the foreign governments have. Those who have been giving aid to Africa.
Yeah.
And you see what leverage they have been pushing around in Africa. So we have this leverage. It's just sitting in the shelf. We are not using it. So we have to start using the leverage that we have.
This is very exciting, but at the same time frustrating, I'll tell you. Because when I think of how this thing can be implemented, how we can get economic freedom, politics, you still have to walk through the government, because the government has to authorize this or open the borders or allow this or allow that. If you have a regime or a government that chokes its people, you can't get anything done. And most of the governments we have in Africa, in various countries, are very autocratic, even though they think they're democratic.
That is true.
Somebody might say that some are theocratic. And they're ready to kill you if you go against whatever they say. So how can you walk through these type of hindrances to get this type of unity going on? In Europe, they have more than 12 countries uniting to have the euro, dollar.
That's true, yeah.
And in West Africa alone, we can't even achieve that.
That is true. Actually, in Europe, they did this by actually setting out a broad economic agenda, and also, I believe, a political agenda. And they set out a criteria through which, individual countries would have to, achieve to be able to become part of the union. The leaders at the time were able to do this with actually the backing of the people, because they had the support of the people. Some of them, I believe, had to go through a referendum to get the approval of the people, to go to the negotiating table and negotiate this agenda on behalf of the European people. And so that is why we are saying with the whole African Union, the people were cut out from the process. It's basically, we had the idea of the leadership, putting out an agenda out there with the exclusion of the ordinary people. Now, what we're saying is that to kickstart and to get this thing working, we probably have to look at, something along the lines, of the European Union, because, people may argue and say, well, that is Europe, it might not work in Africa. But if a model have been adopted elsewhere that have actually largely been successful, and we are looking at actually achieving the same goal, economic freedom for our people, then, there is no point actually reinventing the wheel. So we can borrow some part of the European model and maybe look at certain aspects of even the American system and then try to merge them together and look at, what will actually work, in Africa, and then come up with a model to actually, achieve what we're talking about.
Those models are excellent. But those models did not survive on their own. They survived because of some other things that help people. They were built on certain foundations. Now, let me tell you this. I know some African countries here that export oil or copper or diamond or stuff. Sometimes the money from these proceeds have already been spent even before the thing was manufactured, was being extracted from the ground. So the country keeps on owing. It's true, it's extracting oil. And that's where I think your idea is great, but if we cannot get the right president or governors or whatever you have at the head of states to help work, some people are siphoning our money out to foreign banks and mortgaging our countries.
I can answer that real quick.
And it frustrates me, gets me angry, to be honest with you.
Okay. The argument I try to make is the system.
Maybe I'm talking of something different. Maybe
No, it's the same thing you're talking about.
Okay.
The governments that we have, they're doing the best with what they can, given the system that they have adapted. The system that they have adapted is a flawed system. The system is flawed, it's going to fail on its own. It does not matter who the government we have. You can put the best government in there, it's still going to fail. You can put the worst government in there, it's still going to fail. What we have to do is to re-examine the entire African design. The entire design is a flawed design. If something is flawed, you have to take it back to the factory, overhaul the whole thing, and start again. And the African system is flawed. So it doesn't matter who you have at the head.
Okay.
It's just flawed, period.
Well, 30 minutes is a very short time to get into this issue that's been bugging us for decades now. It started before slavery. It started before slave trade. And it's still bugging us and eating us inside like a cankerworm. And I thank you guys for the courage of, writing this book. We have to start somewhere. At least you've made a start. And I thank you for that. And the book is Africation. And thank you for allowing us to come into your homes. If you want to get this book, just log on the website. That's right under their names. Actually, it's www.africation.org.
You can also get it on Amazon. It's
Amazon also. All right.
It's on Amazon.
Exactly. And I want to thank you for coming to the show. And please log on next time or tune in next time. Also, you can watch this show from anywhere in the world online. It's www.africantreasurestv.com. And thank you for allowing us to come into your home. And join us next time. Bye-bye.
Welcome to Atlanta, Miss Nigeria. We're so glad to have you here.
Thank you very much, Miss Nigeria Atlanta. I'm so glad to be here, and your city is so beautiful.
Yes, Atlanta is a very multicultural city with lots of African American businesses.
Well, talking about businesses, how do I get to do my nails, my hair, see a doctor or dentist or something?
Well, the Metro Ebony pages would be your answer. We have 2 editions, one that focuses on North Atlanta and one on South Atlanta, and it will tell you everything that you need to know.
Oh, really? Wow. Metro Ebony pages.
Yeah, Metro Ebony pages.
For more information on how to include your business in the Metro Ebony pages, you may call 404-209-8654. Mutinta, Mother Africa has talented children scattered all over the world.
And we are showcasing them all here on African Treasures for you. You can also catch us on www.africantreasurestv.com. We have an exciting website that I encourage all of you to see. Thank you.
And please join us again next week at the same time as we continue to share with you the treasures of Africa.